What's going on, world? Welcome back to Aqua Malik. I'm actually sitting in front of one of my most favorite Pleco tanks. These are my L471 Hypancistrus species Dwarf Snowball Plecos. They are an undescribed species of Hypancistrus, and out of all the fish I have in my fish room, I think they're probably one of my top 5 favorite fish. So in this video, we're going to be doing a care and maintenance guide for these particular fish, and I'll be doing a lot more of this type of care and maintenance guides for the rest of the fish that I have in my fish room, as well as how to figure out the difference between these guys and a few other different fish that are all labeled snowball, and they all have the same kind of morphological look. And I will try to figure out how you can distinguish these guys from other fish, and also to make sure that you're getting the right fish as opposed to the wrong kind of fish. So if you haven't subscribed, it's a great time for you to subscribe and hit that notification, because you will be getting a lot of these cool content in the coming year. So stay tuned, and let's get into today's video.
Produced by Malik.
So the first thing I'm going to say is there's about 10 different fish that have the same kind of look and kind of have the same black body with white spots and same kind of physical characteristics, morphologically also quite similar, and it's quite difficult to distinguish between them for an untrained eye. And even for somebody that has seen these fish for so long, it's quite difficult to distinguish them sometimes. So it's a really good idea to buy your fish from a reputable importer or a reputable breeder. I would highly recommend not buying these types of fish at the pet store, because pet stores are not in the business of caring for like the level that requires to actually name these guys properly. They would just look at these and usually would label them L201 Snowball. So there will be like several different kinds of fish that will get labeled as L201. One of them being these guys here, which are the L401s. They're a little bit different from the L201. I actually have an L201 group in the fish room, so we will be looking at those fish in the future. Another fish they get mislabeled as is a Hypancistrus contidens, and they'll also name these guys the dwarf contidens or the mini contidens or mini snowballs and all these kind of weird names. So it's a really good idea to buy your fish from a reputable and ethical importer or a reputable breeder, which is probably your best option to get the right fish, because then you can actually see the parents and ensure that they are not any bigger than 3 inches. So the first thing I'm going to say is these fish don't get too big. Now you can probably see in the B-roll footage that I'm going to put, I do have some Corydoras in here. They're about 2.5 inches, and most of the fish that are adults in here are actually smaller than my Corydoras. So when you watch the videos, if you just see the fish in a close-up, they look like a bigger fish, but when you look at them compared to the size of a 2-inch or 2.5-inch Corydoras that I have in here, you can clearly see that the fish is quite small. So the largest fish I have in here is about 7 centimeters, maybe 7.5 centimeters, a large male. I have 2 of them, and you can tell they're little beefcakes. They're very wide, their heads are very robust, their bodies are very rounded and robust, and very, very powerful animal. They can dig and burrow quite easily and go. And females are quite small actually. I would assume the largest they could get to is about 6 centimeters, so it's a little bit over 2 inches. And I would say that would be a really nice big female, and they do lay quite a lot of eggs for the size of the fish. I would assume that is because the fish is also wide. You can see that they're quite larger compared to the L46 Hypancistrus zebra in terms of width. And so they're like a very wide fish that's also short and kind of stocky. They look like a mini contidens. So another fish that does get mislabeled like as these is a Hypancistrus contidens, which is actually a larger fish. They get to about 5 to 6 inches, which is about 12.5 to 15 centimeters, and they become quite spiky on their bodies, especially the males, even the females, and their entire body gets covered with odontids as they mature. These guys don't seem to have that odontid growth on them, so it's a quite different feature for these guys. I have like very mature males that I've had for over a year that are the same size now that haven't grown anymore, but they haven't actually started growing any odontids in their body, or like they do have some pectoral fin odontids, but not to the level that the Hypancistrus contidens has. and also about 1/3 the size or half the size of a Hypancistrus contidens. A Hypancistrus contidens does not have an L number, so when somebody tells you it's a L201 Hypancistrus contidens, it can only be either L201 or Hypancistrus contidens, which are two different fish that are completely different from this particular fish. They're all Hypancistrus, but they're all different fish. It's like L333 and L399 or L400 or L66 or L260, L340, L129. These are all very similar fish. They all look quite similar, especially when they're younger. They all get mislabeled, but the reality is they're all quite different fish, which we'll be looking at in the next video coming up. Because they're actually one of the very easy fish to breed as well as keep. So we'll be looking at that, so stay tuned for that video. Now as far as breeding goes, these guys are quite easy to breed, and they breed readily for me in captivity. I've had the breeding group now breeding successfully for over a year. I do have some F1s in here that are like large spots and stuff, and I do have some growouts that are like so super spectacular. And I did get some large spot ones from Jason last year, which were also imported. So that large spot variety does occur in nature, and a lot of my fish are actually large spot. The spots don't stay quite large as the fish matures and gets to its adult size of about 7 centimeters, which is about 2 inches and a little bit for the males, and maybe 2 1/4 inches for the females. The spots do spread out, but some of them do retain some of the bigger spots, which is quite spectacular, which is why a lot of people love this particular fish that I have. Now this is not the characteristic norm for the species. A lot of times, a lot of these fish have very small spots, and it's the spot size or the count of spots does not determine the species identity. So like you cannot look at a fish that has like maybe really small yellow spots and say that's not L471, because I've seen both fish with the bigger spots as well as fish with small spots. So that's another thing to consider. According to scottcat.com, which is a really good website for catfishes and loricariids, it states that these guys are different species from the L201 Orinoco Angel or the other Snowball Pleco, and there is distinct morphological differences in the shape of the mouth as well as the head shape. And I also find that the height of the fish and the width of the fish is proportionately different from the L201 Orinoco Angel. Now, there are several other fish that can get mislabeled as these, so really do your research and find out exactly what you're going to get, and make sure you get it from a trusted source, and that you do not end up with something that is going to get larger than what you expected to get. The main reason why I like these particular fish, and one of the reasons why I picked them up myself, is their size, and they're quite small, and I have about 14 adults and sub-adults that are my breeding group in here in a 30-inch by 12-inch tank, which is about 80 centimeters by 30 centimeters. Now, the tank volume is about 35 US gallons, which translates to about 140 to 150 liters, and they do great in this tank. I keep the temperature at about 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Right now, it's actually about 83 and a half. It says in Scott Cat, it says 79 to 87 degrees Fahrenheit, which translates to about 26 to 30 degrees Celsius, and the pH is between 6 and 7. I keep mine at about 7.2 when I do a water change, because I do put a lot of oak leaves. You guys can see that I put fresh oak leaves in here. They breed when the pH starts dropping. So now this applies to pretty much all the Hypancistrus species that I keep and breed, and this is at least what works for me. And my water is quite soft here in Toronto, and what I only have to do is put like about 5 oak leaves per tank, about 30-35 gallons of water, so it's about 150 to 180 liters maybe of water. I put about 5 oak leaves in there every time I do a water change, and the oak leaves deteriorate in the tank naturally and also provide secondary food source for the fry. If you guys are interested in learning about how to breed these guys and fry raising, I will make separate videos, so comment below and let me know. And I also do have quite a bit of fry available, but they are all spoken for. I have few people on my waiting list that want small groups, so I actually have some fry that I'm going out for them. I'm only gonna sell the fry when they're almost at 1.5 inches, because they are small fish. I will probably end up selling them maybe at 1 1/4 inches, but then I still want to keep them here for at least 6 to 8 months before they leave my house. So what you're gonna get from me is a 3 centimeter fish or larger, because I do not believe that anything smaller than that is a good option for a person to take home, especially if they're not experienced with keeping this type of fish long term, if they haven't bred them and stuff like that. I know a few people that want these guys that I'm pretty comfortable giving like a 1-inch fish so 2.5 centimeters, because they themselves are breeders. But aside from those particular individuals that are on my waiting list, if it's somebody new that has not too much experience, I would say larger fish is the only way to go. And so deal with an ethical breeder, and find your fish from that source. So that way you are going to get a good quality product, and also you're going to get exactly what you think you're getting. Now, in terms of pH, I don't think you have to keep them between 6 and 7. You can keep them at about 7.5. My tap water is at about 7.4, and they do great in my tap water. But the only reason I actually drop the pH using these oak leaves is to help them with the spawning, because I found that when the pH is below 6.8, they go, they go gangbusters. They're like rabbits, actually. Quite easy to spawn, and quite easy to feed, and they grow quite fast. And there's actually a little guy right there that was born about a month ago, not even, like maybe 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you guys can see him. It's really cute. It's about like a half a centimeter, so they're really small when they're born. The eggs, they also lay quite a bit of eggs for a small fish. The clutches are about 20 eggs on the larger side, and the smallest clutch is about 14-15 eggs, compared to a zeb clutch, which is about 10 eggs, of the same size fish. Just the only difference is these guys are twice as wide as a zeb would be at the same length. So a small fish, quite spectacular, and quite easy to take care of, and quite fun to watch, actually. I love feeding this thing, and I believe when I post videos of this tank on Facebook, people go gangbusters. People just click like every day, because they're pretty fish. So yeah, give this video a thumbs up, and give these fish a thumbs up, because they are gorgeous fish. So they're one of my most favorite fish, and my top 5 Pleco species that I keep in this fish room video is coming up shortly, so stay tuned for that. And if you guys have any further questions, feel free to comment below. I answer all questions. There are no stupid questions, so if you have any questions, don't feel bad or feel shy or anything. Just comment below, and I will get to them in time, whatever. At least for now, I am able to, because there's only like a little bit over 2,000 of you guys, and so it's not a big deal for me to spend a half a day answering everybody's questions. So comment below and let me know if you guys want me to clarify anything or elaborate further. And happy fish keeping. Hope you all having a great day. I'll see you on the next video. God bless you all.